Welcome back. The acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker was on Capitol Hill Friday. He was testifying before the House Judiciary Committee, and in a hearing that was contentious from the start, Democratic committee members questioned Whitaker about special counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation. Whitaker, who had been critical of the investigation before taking over the Justice Department, said he has not briefed the White House on the probe or interfered with the investigation.
We have followed the special counsel's regulations to a T. There has been no event, no decision that has required me to take any action, and I have not interfered in any way with the special counsel's investigation. At no time has the White House asked for, nor have I provided, any promises or commitments concerning the special counsel's investigation or any other investigation.
Let's talk to Sean Sullivan. He's a congressional reporter for the Washington Post. Sean, how is the testimony from Whitaker going over on Capitol Hill today?
Well, if you're a Democrat and you look at this hearing and you look at what comes out of this, I think you're probably very frustrated because of the way that this hearing went. It certainly was a combative, contentious hearing, and the Democrats who tried to seek more information about Whitaker's interactions with the president, about the way Whitaker has or hasn't overseen the Mueller probe, they didn't get a lot of answers. There was not a lot of clarity. So I think that's something that Democrats are going to be expressing some frustration about coming out of this hearing, because the reality is this might be, in all likelihood, the one and only time that they are able to ask the acting Attorney General about the way that he has operated while he's been in this position.
What are the one or two specific questions you'd say that the Democrats want to ask him specifically when it comes to the Russia investigation?
Well, I think they want to know, first of all, how he has or hasn't handled this investigation, what input he has or hasn't had. And one notable moment in today's hearing was his refusal to refute President Trump's characterization of the Mueller probe as a witch hunt. That's something that could trouble some Democrats, too, who might say now they question the way that he views this probe. But he certainly was very careful and cautious in his answers, and we didn't get a lot of new clarity about how he has, acted in this role relative to this probe, what his interactions with the president have been like. The kind of questions that Democrats wanted the answers to were the questions they asked today in this hearing, and they didn't really get a lot of clarity out of this. And I think that's why we saw this hearing sort of become contentious and combative, and Democrats, in all likelihood, are going to be frustrated coming out of this.
Did Whitaker say he'd come back, or Democrats saying, if you don't come back, we'll subpoena you?
Well, they do have that ability right now. Democrats do control the House, and they could certainly issue a subpoena if they wanted to. But the reality is he will, in all likelihood, not be in this role for very much longer, given that the Senate is already moving toward confirming the person who Republicans hope will succeed him. So we'll see if we'll actually get another chance, either publicly or privately, for lawmakers to ask these questions or to ask new questions.
Let's talk possibility of another government shutdown. We're now a week or so away from another government funding deadline. With that comes the chance of another shutdown. What's the latest you're hearing on that? I mean, does it look like we're going to get to that point again?
Well, what I'm hearing from lawmakers on both sides is that they absolutely do not want another shutdown, and they're being very, very clear about that. Now, the question is, will they be able to come up with an agreement that averts that shutdown? And then there's another question on top of that, which is, will President Trump agree to sign and support whatever lawmakers on Capitol Hill come up with? There's this conference committee that has been working trying to find a deal. These are Democrats and Republicans in the House and the Senate, and it looks like they might be close to a deal, but at this point it may not include the $5.7 billion that the president is demanding for a wall. Democrats are saying, look, there's not going to be any money here for a wall. So the question is, what will President Trump accept? And if he doesn't accept this deal, then where do we go? Are we headed toward another shutdown? Another possibility the president has raised is one of signing a national emergency declaration to try to get his wall constructed that way. So we really don't know how this is going to shake out at this point. There's a lot of nervousness on Capitol Hill and a lot of uncertainty about what these next steps are going to be.
All right, last question. Two people who want to be president, Cory and Kirsten Gillibrand, both Democrats, are going to spend the weekend campaigning in South Carolina. There's always a lot of talk about people going to Iowa, but why South Carolina?
Well, we shouldn't overlook South Carolina at all. This is a state that traditionally holds the first in the South primary, and so after Iowa and New Hampshire, attention is going to turn to South Carolina, and there's going to be a lot of interest in who wins that primary or who places in the top tier there. And right now, with this field that is growing seemingly by the day, you have so many Democrats jumping into this race. I think all of the candidates are kind of looking at where they might be able to compete, trying not to put all of their eggs in one basket, trying not to stake their candidacy on one specific state. And I think right now you're seeing that, and certainly South Carolina is one that's been important in the past. And I think the way the candidates are campaigning at the time that they're spending there, Booker and Gillibrand in particular, shows how important they believe this could be. And it also shows that they believe this could be a race that certainly isn't wrapped up by the time Iowa and New Hampshire are decided. This could be a really long race. This could stretch well beyond even South Carolina, given the number of candidates that are running, the different kinds of candidates that are running, the different messages that we're seeing. So this could be a real marathon race, and I think right now these candidates are looking at where they can compete and how they can compete there.
Sean, you're a scholar and a gentleman for staying late on a Friday night. Thank you.
Thanks, David.